Guys, hello and welcome. I am so excited to have with us today Yuri Lowenthal. Oh God, Yuri is so freaking talented. You guys have heard him on a bunch of different projects. The main, most exciting one is Spider-Man. Yes, which we're gonna get into that.
He's right back there.
Oh my God, he's huge.
He's in the background. Yeah,
he's beautiful. Also, Prince of Persia, Sasuke on Naruto.
Sasuke. That's yeah. Well done though. Better than most people pronounce it. So
we're like Sasuke.
Sasuke. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think my Spanish helps me like at least go Sasuke instead of Sasuke. Yeah. Ben on Ben 10 and Davion or Davion.
Yes. Davion, yeah.
Davion.
Right the first time.
On a new Netflix hit called Dota, Dragon's Blood.
Yeah.
I'm getting very excited because people already are saying that you sound very much like Sasuke. Is he similar?
It's true. I would argue that my dirty little secret is that's not a secret to a lot of people, is that most of my characters sound very much like this. I'm not one of those actors who wildly changes his voice for every character. Occasionally, but mostly they're just variations on this.
So you play yourself in a lot of these roles, or a very similar voice to yourself.
Yeah.
You also have a really young sounding voice.
True. And, I used to hate that as an adult. I mean, as a kid, I never really noticed it. But even when I was a kid, I would listen to my voice, back and I'd be like, oh my God, that's what I sound like. I mean, I think a lot of us do that. But I was like, oh God, I sound like a little kid. This is terrible. But now that's how I make money. And it's, I hope it never goes away. I hope I always sound like this.
Yeah. Talk to me though about, does your Spider-Man also sound very much like your Sasuke?
Even more so. I mean, Sasuke is like, he's really sort of moody and dark. He's that guy. But Peter Parker is just me. It's just straight up. I don't put anything on. I differentiate Peter Parker versus Spider-Man a little bit because we worked on that. They wanted to make sure that was a thing in the game. Because when he's got his mask on, he's just a little more confident, a little more playful. But it's me. It's 100%. I don't change my voice at all for it.
Well, what's interesting though is I close my eyes and I listen to you talk, and you don't sound like a young, 15-year-old. So it is crazy that, I mean, you sound like very much like an adult right now, but in the context of these video games and animations, you do sound younger.
Great. Yeah. No, I mean, and I definitely like if I'm playing Ben 10, he's a little more, he's a little more like a teenager, and let some of those cracks, get back in there, and he's that guy. But somebody mentioned earlier, they're like, well, you must be the other Ben because Tara Strong is Ben. That's true. We've gone through two Bens over the course of, actually, there have been some other sort of different iterations of Ben who come on for an episode or two that are played by other people as well. But yeah, Tara was the original one. And then I was Ben when they aged him up. And then they came back to a different version when they sort of did another reboot on the show, and she came back for it. So at least we're keeping it all in the family.
And did you have to try to voice match her, or they just changed the Ben 10?
No, they changed it up enough that he was old enough that the spirit was still there, but they weren't like, you have to sound just like Tara Strong. Yeah.
Please sound like a chick doing a dude.
Right, exactly.
Can you can you show me your Ben 10 again?
Yeah, I mean, he's more like this. He's like, hey, I'm Ben Tennyson. I've saved the universe about 1 million times this week. So that's.
So talk to me about discovering that you wanted to be a voice actor, because you've also done some on camera stuff. You're very engaging to watch.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And you don't have a face for radio. It's meant for other things as well. How do you talk to me about the beginning of like, oh, I'm really good at doing these things and I want to pursue that?
Yeah, I came out to Los Angeles like many of us did to, do TV and film. And I really I hadn't done any voice acting at that point. And my wife Tara she said we need to find some other things beside, because auditioning for TV and film is just a brutal business, and the work is so few and far between, especially if you're just coming out here. And she's like, well, what about maybe we could do voiceover? And I was like, oh yeah, voiceover. Why didn't I think of that? Like, I grew up, playing video games and, watching anime and stuff like that. So like, I should have thought of that right away, but it never seemed like a real job that a person could get.
Like a real job. I love it.
Like, I mean, like, I didn't even know, like, I knew how to audition for TV and film stuff, but I'm like, how do you even, like, don't they just have like 5 people who do all the VO, you know?
Yeah. Well, they kind of did sort of at a time.
Sort of, yeah, at one point in time, you're right.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what if we took a class? And I'm like, great, I know how to take a class. So we took a class, and the teacher who taught that class ended up getting a job directing an anime dub and started auditioning some of his students.
Yeah.
And I booked one of the roles on that show, and I was introduced to that, you know, that crowd of people, and then people referred my name around, and, you know, one thing led to another thing. And so that was really my way in. And then in the meantime, I was still doing, you know, on camera auditions, and I was auditioning for, you know, looking for an agent and auditioning for, you know, more commercial stuff, you know, VO stuff. And so just, you know, little jobs led to bigger jobs, and it's, you know, became my career, which is really amazing.
So what was it in high school that hit? You did a play?
Yeah, it was something I'd always wanted to try, but I was always doing, you know, I was sports or playing Dungeons and Dragons or, you know, whatever. I was always like, something else was always much more important to me at the time.
Yeah.
And I finally thought, oh, well, you know, if I want to try it, if I go off to college, I'm probably not going to try it then. I should try it now.
Yeah.
And I tried it and did like every play my senior year of high school. I just fell in love immediately.
Yeah. And then did you go to college for some sort of performance
studies? I did not, because I was afraid my parents would stop helping me with college if I said, I want to be a theater major.
I know.
So I did pick a school. I went to William and Mary, and they had a strong Japanese program, which I was also studying. They had a gymnastics team, which I was doing at the time, and they had a well, you know, renowned theater department. And I'm like, okay, so I can go there for Japanese and international relations, international studies, that kind of thing, which my parents were into. But I could also spend time in the theater, and they have a good theater department. So I was doing both, you know.
I love it. They were like, our son is going to be a diplomat in Japan. And you're like, no, I do cartoon voices.
Like, yeah. And well, I did start out, because even after that, like I went, I did my junior year abroad in Japan just because I loved Japan. And then I came back, and I wanted to go and really sort of cement my language skills and everything. So after I graduated, I went back and did work sort of in international relations in Japan for a couple of years. But the whole time that I was there doing this boring bureaucratic job in this amazing country, I was doing plays on the side, and I was studying with, like, you know, Japanese theater companies and Australian theater companies, and I was making stupid little, you know, independent films with a, you know, handheld video camera with my friends, and I was like, oh man, I can't shake this. I've got it. This is what makes me happy. I'm gonna have to go back home and try this professionally. And if it doesn't work out, I can always come back to boring government work. You know, that's not going anywhere. But I don't want to look back in 30 years and go, oh, you know, that was, I wonder if I could have done that. That was always so much fun.
I wonder if I could have been Spider-Man. What's one of your favorite animes that you've worked on? We have a lot of anime lovers here. That's why I'm focusing on this.
Oh, the list goes on and on. I mean, Naruto obviously is you know, near the top of the list, but Gurren Lagann was another series that, both as a consumer of anime as well as an actor, was just great to work on. Code Geass. And I got to do a Robotech movie, and Robotech was one of those shows that I loved growing up that was done by the time I got into this business. And I was like, well, that would have been cool, but they don't make that show anymore. So there's no chance I'm going to get to work on a Robotech thing. And then they did this one-off Robotech movie that I worked on. And it was just, you know, it's like every time I get to do that or play a character like Spider-Man or Superman, or, you know, something like a character that I grew up loving, you know, from reading comic books and watching cartoons and stuff, it gets a special little check mark next to it. I'm like, yes, that.
We've had a lot of questions asking about getting into voice acting. And
yes,
I know
saw,
that it's something that we answer a lot, but in a nutshell, if you could let them know, like, the process of things quickly, because it's
sure.
There's no point A to point B, and then maybe a few tips that you throw out, because we all have our different tips.
Yeah, I would say that's really important to note, is that there's no, you do this and then this happens. And even, you know, everybody I talk to in this business has their own sort of unique story of how they got exactly to where they're going. But I would say that it does help to be a good actor. Like I know the voice at the acting part of voice acting sort of gets lost in the mix because you get focused on the voice part. But I would say, yeah. And it's, I mean, you know, I told sort of the story of how I segued into that. And again, everybody's got a different story, and so will all of you who get into this. But I would say focus on the acting first, in that what I've noticed in this business is that people who are strong actors are the ones who have longevity in this business. Also, you know, acting is a big part of it, and you're going to want to find out if you like that. So I would say if you don't have any, you know, experience in that, depending on your age and your location, you can either do, you know, local theater or take classes, improv classes. If you're in a school that has a drama program of any sort, or even a drama class of any sort, or plays you can try out for, try some of that to see if you like it, because
to warm up.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If you fall in love with it, that's going to be your big secret weapon, because as you know, Carolina, I'm sure I mean, maybe you just started off and just took off like a rocket, but you know, I mean, for me and, you know, most people that I know, it's sometimes you're working, and then sometimes for a long time you're not working, and then you're working
and you're
again.
waiting tables, and you're catering, and
So you gotta, when you're not actually, because here's the thing, when we're at sessions, like we're at Victor and Valentina, that's fun. Like there's no other way around it. It's not like, you know, breaking bricks or digging ditches when we go in there. But getting to those moments, we have to do all the auditions. We have to suffer, you know, through the rejection. We have to not take it personally. We have to try to find out how we're, you know, have another job so we can pay rent. It's a lot of stuff in between. But if you love, you know, acting, even when you're not getting paid for it, even when you're doing plays for free, you know, in the meantime, or, you know, making stupid movies with your friends, or, you know, all that stuff. The love will carry you through, like the passion will carry you through.
That's a great question from the Nightbot, because I was wondering, you say a lot of the characters are very much like you. I want to hear maybe if there's a few in there that are a little bit different, or you know, they have some fabulous accent. Do you have a bunch of accents in your back pocket? What's kind of like a lot of what you do for auditions besides when Yuri comes out?
You know, I have some that are strong and some that are weak. Like there's certain ones that I should have worked on a lot by now, because they keep coming up and I have not honed them. And so, you know, so I do like when they're like, okay, now do an Australian accent. I'm like, oh, right. All right, I'll sort of do an Australian accent, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, if any Australian person is listening to this, I should get better at that. But then they're, you know, like my French accent, because I speak French, is pretty good still. And but nobody wants to ask me. Yes.
What? You're multilingual?
I speak French because I when I was little, I lived in West Africa, and I went to a French private school.
Wow.
Yes.
C'est très cool.
C'est super cool.
Ouais.
Super cool. I used to get hired a lot to do Japanese accents before they got, you know, really specific about ethnicity.
How cool.
Would
you do
was
one on here, or you stay away from that now?
Let's see. Because I was just in French. Do you find getting stuck in one accent, you have to sort of work your way out of it to get into something else? Otherwise, it's just the same accent.
Or if I speak the language, I'll speak in the language and then go into it, because then I'm screwed up.
My Japanese accent is pretty good, but it's you know, I don't always speak Japanese, but when I do, it's I'm no Tohoru Masamune, but maybe if he and I were friends, we could be very good friends.
Are there any exciting things you can talk about that you don't have NDAs holding your?
A lot of NDAs. The show that just came out on Netflix, Dota Dragon's Blood, is terrific. I'm super proud of it. It's 8 episodes.
That's based on a video game, am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's based on a video on Dota, the Defense of the Ancients.
Yeah.
Which I was not very familiar with before I did the show. and you don't need to be to watch the show. But if you are familiar with it, you'll probably like the show.
Oh, super.
For sure. But it's that just came out like a week-ish ago, and it's been great. And I'm really happy with the way it came out. There was a show that I did a couple of years ago that was only available on a streaming platform that Legendary had. It was sort of like their Twitch channel, called the Project Alpha. And it was a show that I was super proud of, but not a lot of people saw it because not a lot of people were, had that platform or were very familiar with that platform or were subscribers. But while official announcements will be coming out soon, let's just say that the people who didn't get a chance to see it will probably get a chance to see it soon on a platform that everybody has. It's a show called Orbital Redux.
Oh, cool.
And was a weekly live action science fiction show where we would shoot it like a play. It was just one take all the way through, warts and all, where it was a sci-fi show. All the visual effects, all the sound effects, all the music, all the filming, everything was performed live in one go. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Wow, that's cool. Yuri, thank you for joining. This was incredibly fun. Yes, guys, tune in next. I always do Tuesday, Thursdays, 12 to noon. I almost didn't get Yuri on because he's such a busy man. He's got so many recordings going on. But guys, keep booming and booping.
Yeah, do that.